Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Inspiration Through Information. Glad to be here this evening once again with you so that we can continue on this series, Development of Self. Today's segment is the conclusion of a five-part series. It's been a wonderful time doing this series. It's been a wonderful time sharing my insight with each and every one of y'all. And there's a whole lot more to come. But tonight's episode is going to be Stay on the Path, right? And that is the fifth part in the conclusion of our series, Developing Self. And I'm your host, Brother Jamal. Let's begin by doing a recap, right? We started this five-part series 5 weeks ago, right? And it's been a journey. It's been a wonderful journey going through the process of establishing a foundation that can be built on, that can withstand anything that you may encounter through your lifetime, right? It's such a wonderful thing when you can share your insight and your information with others in regards to how they themselves can strengthen themselves, right? Incorporate some greater knowledge on how to stand when life on life terms tend to hit you or that you get a chance to experience it. You know, in our first part, we did what was called a reconstruction phase, right? The first part was a part where we was taking out all the stuff that we felt that didn't belong to us or we didn't like about us, right? We got rid of all that stuff in part one if we did it thoroughly. In part two, we did what we consider a spiritual evaluation of where we were at after getting rid of all that stuff, after getting rid of all the old junk, so to speak. In part two, we did a spiritual evaluation, which is important because your life is contingent on your spiritual conditioning, right? How you feel inside will be a great determinator of where you go, how you elevate, whether you elevate or not, right? So it was important for us to do a spiritual evaluation, which we did in part two. In part three, we begin something that may be uncomfortable, but it was new and it's part of the strengthening your foundation. We begin to intentionally implement some stuff into our lives that were directly a choice of ours, right? A choice of self. So that means however they do, once they are part of our lives, we have to take full accountability of it because we were the ones who intentionally implemented this stuff into our lives, right? In part four, right, we got a chance to take all that we did in the first three parts in part four and we begin to apply it into our everyday life, right? In our everyday life. Good evening, mother. Yes, it's good to see you, right? In our everyday life, we got an opportunity to apply it. That was part four, right? And in these first four parts, prior to tonight's conclusion of the five-part series, right, of developing self, the first four parts were basically a commitment. You may not have known, but if you achieve these first four parts, you have already gained the knowledge and the evidence that you can stay committed to something that is definitely going to benefit you in a greater insight, right? So when once you so don't you don't have to question yourself whether or not you can stay committed to this next part, right? In the conclusion of the series itself. So this next part is considered stay on the path. And it's one of my quotes that I've written. And if you go on my page, right, Inspiration Through Information, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Facebook, or whether it's Instagram, right, you'll get to see that quote. And what it means is that when you deviate, from this process right now of developing self, you open yourself up for the spirits of those deviations. Whatever your deviation be, when you step into a deviation, that means you will step into and you will open yourself up for other spirits, other conditions, other situations that you had no intention of adding to your life. So it's very important that we stay on the path, right? We must not deviate. And all it requires to stay on the path is discipline and commitment. You've already acquired the commitment, in the first 4 parts. You should have acquired the ability to stay committed to your purpose goal. You should have been able to continue on moving forward. So now, how do we stay on the path? Simply, we just remember our purpose. We remember our goals, right? And we continue to walk through. So that means while we're on this path, we're going to experience a whole lot of different things. We're going to see some things that may appear to be enticing to the eyes, enticing to the heart, right? Enticing to the flesh, right? But we must be able to take an evaluation that says that, in what am I about to take on? Is it for instant gratification, or is it for longevity of growth? Is it going to stay with us? Because we learned in part 3 that intentional implementation will stay with us when the woes of the world hit us. We won't shift. We may sway a little bit, but our foundation shall not rattle. So when we stay on this path, right, I'm going to speak a little account, give you a little history of staying on the path. Staying on the path for me mean I had to endure, I had to sacrifice, I had to discipline myself. I had to put a lot of my wants to the side at that time so that I can achieve the thing that I necessarily needed to achieve. How you doing, Sister Crystal? Thanks for joining. Right? I had to do these things because I no longer wanted to be end up in the place that I was when I began developing myself. See, I don't want to get back to the point of where I got to reconstruction my whole foundation because it's filled with a lot of things that are not of me. In other words, in step 5, we are at a point that we are walking in confidence in who we are, our authentic who we are. Not the version that our friends may want to put us on, not the version that society says that we have to be, not the version that anyone describes or says that this is how you should be. We should be at the point where we walking in who we are in our authentic self. And the reason why it's important to stay on the path when you walking in your authentic self is because you don't have to acquire nothing new to get through. You don't have to figure out what works for you because it's already with you. You're only using the things that's of you through this whole process, right? So while I'm staying on the path and when I'm going through life and I'm experiencing some things, some disappointments, some joy, some frustration, some other, my job is to make sure that I stay true to who I am. Continue living through who I am. My job is not to take on someone else's personality. My job is not to take on someone else's aspirations, right? I need to use mine because I'm here to tell you through experience, right? All your dreams, all your aspirations, all your wants, all your desires that you want for your life are achievable and fulfillable without you having to become anybody else other than yourself. Because what is for you will align with you. Anything that you add to your life, you're going to do the necessary steps to figure out whether or not it's supposed to be in my life. Should it stay in my life? That means simply, my greatest homework has to be on me. See, I can't spend a lot of time taking other people's evaluations. I can't spend a lot of time worrying about my neighbor's way of living and how they conduct themselves or carry themselves, right? I need to make sure that I'm carrying myself in the way that I believe is spiritually correct for me to live my life, right? So if I'm an individual who does not wishes to trespass on nobody, then that's what I must stick to. I can't turn around and say because this happened to me or someone said or did something to me, now it's my responsibility to make sure I make them feel or get what they gave to me. Because once I do that, I'm no longer living in my authentic self. I am living in my reactive self. Now I'm taking on a behavior that someone else displayed because I feel like I need to let them see what it is to feel that. But I'm here to tell you, you really don't, because I can promise you they'll receive it. They'll receive it, right? Listen, and it does not have to be you. I no longer do anything in my life towards someone based off of what they've done to me, because at the end of the day, I've come to understand that I don't have to be the one to show someone the ill wills of their behaviors or mannerisms or characteristics that they may have displayed to me, right? I don't have to be the one to prove it to them. I can just keep moving forward. I can allow my life to give them what I want them to have. See, if I become exactly like them in my behavior, right, then what makes me any different than them? So I'm no longer walking in my authentic self. What I'm doing is walking in a clone version of who I think I am, based off of who someone else thinks I am. So when we stay on the path, right, that means that whatever path you have aligned with, it does not mean the path or the goal can't change. But I'm talking about in the here and now. What is your primary goal for your life? What did you intentionally add to your life that you're now applying in your life? And that means you're in the exploration period of that new thing that you added to your life. How much time are you going to give it? How much effort are you going to give it? How much ability are you going to give it the best of you to see if it actually is of you? Or are you going to respond as we used to respond at one time? If it don't work right away, just forget about it. I'm just going to quit, or whatever the case may be. Now I'm living a life in resentment, because what I'm dealing with now is like, I don't really know if that thing was about me or would have worked for me, because I didn't give it the necessary time, energy, discipline, nor commitment. To stay on the path of something means I must stay committed to it. So that means I must look at it in a broadened perspective. I can't look at it through my fears of perspective. I can't look at the fearful side of how I see things. I got to look at it from the faithful side of how I do things, right? Because both of them take place. Both of them take place. You're going to experience some things in your new path of life that you chose to live that's going to invoke familiar, fearful thoughts. Now, let me share that with you. Fearful thoughts. But just because you have a fearful thought does not mean you need to live in fear. It just means that I have a doubt. I'm questioning whether it's for me. My solution and my suggestion to you is that keep going anyway. Anyway, because what we should be at the point is that our faith should be greater than our fear. It doesn't mean we're absent of fear. It does not mean we void from ever experiencing or thinking fear again. But my faith should be greater than my fear. So that means if it's greater, I'm going to lean more so on my faith. So what that means is my life basically is taking a 360 degree turn. I'm coming from a place where I live my life through my fears to now walking in my life through my faith. And faith is just simply knowing and believing that what it is that I'm pursuing is definitely for me, even though it doesn't look like I'm ever going to have it. You got to keep going. You got to stay on the path. You have to stay on the path. We cannot afford in this newness that we walking in to believe that our path is not going to have any type of adversity, barriers, bumps in the road, trips on the street. We're going to experience all these things. Yes, we are. Because guess what? If you have lived life a little bit, you probably would know by now and recognize by now that adversity continuously comes. But you want to know what else can continuously come? If you make a decision to align yourself with that, joy. Joy, accomplishment, success, survival, those things continually come too. It's all left up to the individual to see which one are you going to chase after. Are you going to chase after the adversities of your life? So in other words, what that means, are you going to have the adversities become a crutch? Are they going to become a crutch that you continuously lean on, and you don't convince yourself that you cannot walk through life without this crutch? I challenge you to try it. If you've been following this series, I shouldn't have to challenge anyone who has been following this series and truly implementing these suggestions into their life the best of their abilities. I shouldn't have to challenge you. But if this is your first time ever watching or following the series, right, I'm definitely challenging you to actually walk in your faith as opposed to your fear. Stay on the path of your faith. Don't get caught up in what's going to be on the path. Just stay on the path. The whole goal to developing self is to be self, no matter what you endure. So that means when I'm sad, I'm still me. When I'm happy, I'm still me. When I'm joyful, I'm still me. When I'm frustrated, I'm still me. When I experience any feeling that I may experience it, it does not mean that it's no longer me. It just means that I'm in touch with the fact that I'm feeling something. I'm no longer trying to escape a feeling or becoming numb to a feeling to where I no longer wish to feel something. So now I'm trying to replace a natural feeling with an unnatural process. And we wondering why our foundation begins to deteriorate. Anytime we add unnatural stuff to our natural process, right, it causes I give you a prime example. What's it when they had juices or what artificial flavor? Artificial flavor. And I say that, and I want you to look at that in a broad perspective and say, yes, has my life been living off of artificial flavor? Or has my life been living off of natural juices? Which way do I want to be? Do I want to be one of natural juices, or do I want to be one of artificial flavor that needs a whole bunch of other components in order to give me a taste that's familiar of a natural juice, but it doesn't quite make it? So that means I fall short of the natural, authentic self of who I am, and I settle for the artificial taste that I have given my life. So in this particular step, step 5 in the conclusion of, it's just simply we must stay on our path. The work that we put into ourselves in the first 4 steps should not go in vain nor stay in void. For the simple reason is that, like, we must stop giving up on ourselves once we acquire something. In other words, once we start feeling, my spiritual father always say, listen, once we start feeling better, don't mean we better. It just means that the feelings, right, that used to hurt are not hurting as much. So we feel a little bit better, right? But that does not mean we're better. Because if spiritually, mentally, and emotionally we have not overcome the situation, it's only a moment in time before the feelings that didn't feel so good return from the same situation. And these are the things that you will understand in life, is that a feeling has what they call a natural process. See, feelings don't alter. Feelings don't change direction. Feelings have what they call a natural process. A feeling, if left alone, will stay on the path of its natural process. That means you will feel it, you're going to have to deal with it, and then you need to heal from it. You're going to feel it. You're going to have to deal with it. And then you're going to heal from it. The natural process of a feeling. It's only when we get off the path, it's only when we try to alter the path of the feeling that we open ourselves up for all the spiritual deviations that may come with the alteration. So it is vital. It is vital now that y'all are at this point in time. It is extremely vital that we, and I always say we because me too. I never stop wanting to be a better version of who I am. I never want to stop improving on me, right? Because whoever I am and who I am in totality will only be complete when the day of my calling comes. Until that day, I have an opportunity to always improve. So that means as long as I have the breath of life, that means there's room for improvement. And if I stay on my path, right, I will get a chance to improve. If I deviate from my path, there's things in the deviation that are set up spiritually for me not to improve. So after going through this 5-part series in these 5 steps, our foundation should be unshakable. It should be like a solid rock. So to stay on the path, we already have what's necessary. We have strength in our foundation. Right, we have spiritual strength, we have emotional strength, right? We can work on the physical strength now because we have spiritual, we have emotional, and we have mental strength. The first 4 steps have acquired those things just by applying implementation, intentional, walking in the new, cleaning out the old, evaluating the spirit has already given us those formidable foundation. And this stay on the path, now we can start to improve on the physical. Right now we can start to get more out of what it is that we like. Good evening, Father. I just mentioned you in a little while, but good evening, Father, right? We must continue to go in the thing that's authentic to ourselves. There's a saying, and I've read this in some literature that I read, right? And it says, in time, we will find that God's will for our lives is our own true wills for ourselves. Also, so what that means is that as a person, as a human being, I want goodness for my life. God's will for my life is to have goodness in my life. I just gotta stay on the path. I just gotta stay on the path. If I stay on the path, the goodness of my life I shall have. It is very, very vital in this process of developing self and building on our foundation that we not forget the principles of our foundation. We must remember the principles that go into developing self, right? It is the principles that we build on. It's the principles that hold us up. It's the principles, the spiritual principles that hold up our foundation. We must continue to apply these to the best of our abilities. And what that means is that some days on our path, we just may not physically feel motivated. We may not physically or emotionally or mentally feel like doing it. My strong suggestion is that you do it anyway. And whatever portion of it that you can do, just ensure that you give that portion the best of whatever it is you got on that day. Just give it the best. Don't worry about how long or how strong your best is on that day. All it requires is your best. Some days your best is going to seem amazing. And some days your best is going to be minimum. Just make sure that it's your best. So that therefore you will always, because the spiritual foundations will do the rest. They are going to act according, period. because they are spiritually established. So therefore, no physical act can have them shift or alter. No physical act, right? Spiritually, they are going to perform as they perform. My job is to give those principles my best, whatever my best is, right? When I'm feeling low or feeling down, then I have to be honest and say I'm feeling low, feeling down, but I'm here anyway. And I'm gonna give you whatever it is I got. I'm gonna just give you what I got. I don't need to get caught up in whether someone else appreciates or value what they get from me at that time. I just need to know spiritually that they got my best. They got my best. It's not my job to make someone else understand me. It's not my job to make someone else appreciate or value. It's not your job to make others in the world see you in the light you wish to be seen. It's your job to make sure you see you in the light that you wish to be seen. See, because once your light starts dimming on yourself, this is when the deterioration of your foundation takes place. It's not when others see you in whatever ways they may see you. It's when you begin to see you, when you secretly begin to see you. In other words, you manifest out your mouth that that's not how you see yourself, but in the darkening of the night or on the pillow, I call it when you're on the pillow and you're alone with your spirit, you are chewing yourself out. You are doubting yourself. You are talking down to yourself through yourself. So therefore, this is when the foundation deteriorates, right? So if we stay on this path and we stay implementing these spiritual principles that we've acquired in this series of developing self, I can assure you that those nights will begin to lessen, and eventually they will move on. Because whenever you're feeling that way, all you have to do is just apply the principles. Don't worry about how they would, just apply them. Because mentally, once you start repetitiously applying something, the spiritualness of it connects with it and it takes over. So on those days where you don't feel like you got enough to give enough, enough is given, and the spiritual will compensate. The spirituality will compensate the difference. As my spiritual father says, he says, the intercessory principle will compensate the difference for you. If you stay on the path, you just must continue to stay on your path, right? My hopes for each and every one of y'all who may have followed this series is that whatever it is that you want in your life, my hopes is that you know that it's achievable. You know that it's acquirable. You will begin to learn that it will come in the time it's supposed to come. Your job is to keep pursuing, perseverance, right? Because if it's of you, why why when we look in clarity and we deal with rational thinking, if it's of me, why will I leave it just sitting somewhere? I'm going to get it. Do you understand what I'm saying? If it is of me, I'm going to get what's mine. What's mine? Good evening, Brother Walker. It's good to see you, big bro. I'm going to get in what's mine. I am no longer leaving, just floating around what I believe is of me, waiting for me. No, I am pursuing it, right? I'm pursuing it, and I'm pursuing it spiritually first. I'm seeking out, I'm seeking my spiritual fortitude or my spiritual connection first, because my spiritual principles, as I said earlier in the segment, is the vital keys. They are the keys that will open whatever door I need to open, whatever gate I need to go through, whatever room I need to be into. My spiritual principles will be the things that open the doors for that, so that I can acquire what is of me. What it is that I believe should be a part of me. I'm no longer waiting for someone to provide to me something that's already in me. All I need to do is just pursue it, so therefore it can become out of me. Hear what I say to you. I'm no longer am going to settle for anything or leave what's for me out there and crying or whining about it. And I'm not going to say it in a derogatory way, just expressing the frustration of why I haven't gotten it yet. I always teach this, and I'm going to continue to teach this. Everything that you're seeking for is already within you. Your responsibility, Brother Jamal, or anyone else that's following, your responsibility is to tap into it, so that it can come out of you. Success is already in you. Riches are already in you. Prosperity is already in you. Love is already in you. Nothing that you acquire or pursue, wealth is already in you. Health is already in you. My job is that as a human living on this life, I need to just tap into me so that it can come out of me and connect with the outward world, so I can draw it unto me, so that I can bring it unto me, so that I can attract it. I can't keep seeking beautiful things when inside I'm not feeling beautiful. So therefore, it's no way I'm attracting anything of beauty, because inside I'm saying I'm not beautiful. Everything in life is for you, that is for you, belongs to you, and there's a path that's carved out especially for you. If you reach this part of the segment, if you've gotten to this place of developing self and you've gotten to part 5, all you need to do now is just stay on the path, right? I, as usual, hope for, inspire for, that you and anyone who wants to grow or have something in life, my hopes is that you achieve it. Put no limitations on what you aspire to. Don't put no boundaries on what you aspire to, because the limitations you put are the limitations you'll have. If you don't want no limitations, then don't place no limitations on your aspirations, right? Whatever they may be. In the process, our job is to learn, educate, acquire knowledge, right? In the scriptures, it says, my people suffer for lack of knowledge. So therefore, when I want to know something or I want to get something, the first thing I need to do is learn how. I need to know about it. And spiritually, I will be able to connect with it because I've acquired the knowledge of it. And if the knowledge sits well with me, then the acquiring of what it is that I'm pursuing is going to sit well with me, right? So into the next week, right? Because we have weekly episodes, inspiration through information. We will have weekly episodes, right? Next week, we will embark on something brand new, something exciting, something energetic, in our next segment of series, right? Because this is the conclusion of developing of self, right? Our next segments, I'm gonna give you a little insight, right? The title, like the beginning of it, is "What Do I Want?" Right, and that can just expound on so many different levels and things, right? But I just wanted to tease you a little bit with what's coming next, right? It's going to begin with "What do I want?" Right, and we'll begin. During those times, I am going to have invited guests during that series of "What Do I Want?" because it's to inspire and to be able to get greater knowledge and insight on people in the things that they desire. You have to include, right? This is our show. This is Brother Jamal Show, inspiration through information. But what would it be without you, right? I inspire to continue to bring forth to y'all great inspiration, great insight, man, so that the joys and the happiness of life that you truly seek, man, you can hear through personal experience, through study, through research, and through the words of other folks who've acquired these things, right? And how it goes about getting it, right? Because you too deserve it, right? So until next time and until next week, man, this is your host. This is Brother Jamal, and it has been a wonderful, wonderful time spending with y'all on this series of developing self, right? If you just joined my page, man, you can follow this live, right? In the prior segments, you can go to my YouTube channel, Inspiration Through Information, right? You can also, and if you want to know where my account comes from, right, you can go on Amazon, you can order my book, right? It's called Journey, right, through the pain into the purpose. You can find it on Amazon, right, anytime you want, or you can just connect with me through any of my pages. I'm on all the platforms from Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So until next time, like I usually say, and I always want everyone to know, please be blessed and continue to prosper in your life. Good evening.